All right, we're back with Hannah Wyatt, and we're going to be talking about the album now exclusively. We talked a little bit about the video and where she filmed it and all that, and it was, like I say, you got to go out. And this is the video for, I should say, Keep the Saddle Clean, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh,
Yeah, we're gonna do one more video for the
oh,
song three. I shot I shot most of it already myself. But we need someone to film me and Tim. So we're gonna ask one of our friends to film us or something, and then I can put it together. But so we'll have another video out once the full album is out too for one of the songs there. So
beautiful. There you go. Do you want to mention which song or not yet?
yeah, the song is called Three.
Oh, okay.
It's not a single, but it's just one of my favorites on the record. So I wanted to make a video for it. I wrote it for Tim. It's a love song.
Yeah, yeah. And actually, we'll start with that one.
Okay.
We could go in any order, but yeah, go ahead since you're already talking about that. That is one of the songs on the album. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's the on the physical record, that's the last song on the A side.
Okay.
I just I don't really often write just pure just love songs that don't have some like dark twist or something. So any that I do have are for Tim, and I just wrote because I love him and he inspires me. So that one's for him, and I wanted it to. I don't know if you know the artist Rachel Sermoni. I think she's Irish.
No. No.
But she has this one music video from like 10 years ago or something. And it's one of those that's always stuck with me. It's nothing like revolutionary. It's just her like painting in watercolors and then this watercolor like floating down the river. But the video is just like so cozy and it makes me cry every time. It's just like heart wrenching, but it's so beautiful. And I wanted to attempt to get a similar vibe because I don't really do music videos that often, so it's new to me. But I figured this song would work because it's sweet, it's about love, but it's also there's like some sadness in it, and so I'm gonna try my best at making that sort of music video. So we'll see. It should be out in December with the record. So
All right. So let's start back up at the beginning, and
okay.
or maybe a better way to do this because I always end up doing track by track. What are some, and this is always a subjective thing, but what are some of your favorite tracks? A lot of people don't want to see, you mentioned one there. Um, do you want to do it that way or go track by track or go ahead?
We can go track by track because the order was kind of like done and on purpose to as an
Oh,
arc. So that would make
explain
sense
that.
to go.
Go ahead and
Yeah.
explain that, and then let's talk about Laura.
Okay. Yeah, so in the past, any album I've done, the order has just been kind of put together like um happy song, sad song, slow song, fast song, major key, minor key, like your usual just sort of like mixing it on purpose, but there isn't really like a overall purpose. So Tim is always doing concept albums. And so
Thank you. That was the
I
word
was
I was looking for.
right. Yeah. So Tim's always doing concept albums. And so I've never done a concept album. So I wouldn't really call this a concept album, but I had a concept to the order that I arranged it in. So and this is the first time I've done that. So it was harder than I thought it would be because how I write is like I write randomly. I write only when like inspiration strikes. I don't ever like sit down and try to write something. It just happens to me, and it could be months before another song comes, or I could write three in a week.
All right.
So usually how an album forms is I'll finish one project and then over a few months I'll start randomly writing random songs, and then I'll start assembling them, and I'm like, could this be something? And then I fill in the gaps and make it a full project. And so it was about halfway through this record I was like, what if I do it where it starts off lighter, folkier, has like banjo, more fiddle style stuff, more like major key songs. It's just kind of a brighter countryer folk vibe, and then slowly kind of get darker and darker and more like indie style, darker indie style. So I decided that about halfway through. So then it was really challenging to like figure out the like how to fill in the gaps between this vibe and that vibe and make it make sense, but make them not all too similar, which is something I struggled with. So this was definitely the hardest album for me to put together. But I think it works. I mean, it's a subtle arc. It's not like I'm changing genres or anything. But I think if you're paying attention to it, you'll notice the shift by the end. Like
All right.
if you got to the last song and then you hit replay and you started with the first one, I think there's a pretty obvious difference there by the end.
All right. And are those, is it a covered wagon? I know it's not a real one, but is that a covered wagon?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
is
So the
it?
first song
Yeah.
I wrote because when I was a kid, I loved Little House on the Prairie. And so I was like, what better way to start off like with the lightest, folkiest vibe is just a song about like how I felt as a little girl, like loving Little House on a Prairie and wanting to be, even back then, I wanted to be like a prairie girl from the 1800s. And so um, I just found different like online of like a babbling brook, a water wheel, like the water wheel in the show, and
Yeah.
then a horse-drawn carriage and stuff, and just like assembled them all together. Just I love setting the mood with like atmospheric, like
Yes.
environmental sounds like that. So um, yeah, that's how Laura starts. And hopefully some people will get the reference. I don't know. If you don't know Little House on the Prairie, you probably wouldn't get it, but like obviously
I remember.
all of the lyrics are alluding to their stories. So hopefully some people get it like you. But
Yep. Um, I'm trying to see anything else you want to, and definitely, yeah, you talk about that cold, and I definitely remember that cold, and you do too from New York. You
mhm.
guys, they got people don't realize it. It probably doesn't happen as much anymore with global warming, but Syracuse and that upper state New York
Yeah.
usually beats everyone else in the country in
Yep.
terms of total snow for the year.
Yep.
And we weren't far behind in Cleveland because we get the lake
Mhm.
snow.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it very picturesque, beautiful in the winter at times. But then, well, I don't want to ruin it. But then as time goes by, the slush and
Yep.
the salt, it turns black, and
Yeah.
not the stuff on the grass and stuff like that, but unfortunately it loses its beauty.
Mhm.
And it's a
Yeah.
shame, yeah, because it'd
Yeah.
be nice if it stayed that way all winter
Mhm.
long. Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. AOC,
So I think
and
that's
I'm probably
pronounced
saying it wrong.
Ishi.
Ishi. Okay.
I think it's I like I said, I grew up classical violin and that's my thing. But I've been trying to challenge myself to get better at like playing fiddle style. Like I kind of started attempting that when I was in college. I joined a folk band in North Carolina, and only then did I realize I have no idea how to play in any style other than classical. That was a giant slap in the face. Like I joined a folk band without having any idea how to improvise. I didn't know how to like pick up a song in real time and just like play along to it. So that's been something I've been learning and getting better at over time. But anyway, so I've been trying to lean more into like learning how to fiddle. It's certainly not something I like love to do all the time. I mean, the people in Bellingham go crazy for it, like the Bellingham Folk Festival, and there's people who that's their life, and I applaud them for it. It's certainly just kind of like a side thing for me. But I wanted to challenge myself to write a fiddle tune. So I wrote this one kind of as a foreshadowing to where the album's going to go because the themes in major and then the themes in minor and then mixing them up by the end. So like there'll be like a major chunk and then a minor chunk and then it'll like repeat the A or B theme and mix up whether it's major or minor. And by the end, it's mixing like twice as fast.
Oh, wow.
Um, so that was fun to write. That's the first fiddle tune I've written. I was definitely trying to attempt more of the Irish style, hence the name. Um, I think that name, if I remember correctly, translates to like the fairy Gaelic people, like
Oh,
the tribe
yeah.
of fairies or something. So I just wanted it to feel like light and lilting. But yeah, I wanted to foreshadow with the mixture of the major and the minor and have it be kind of a contrast between the two.
You got to meet the band. I can never remember names off the top of my head, but they're from Seattle, Dublin Alley, Dublin
Hmm.
Abbey.
Hmm.
I'll send you some information on them, but
Cool.
they'd love for you to maybe sit in with them if it works out.
Yeah, it's
Uh, but you
I'm
don't,
so far behind like the skill of those like those Irish fiddlers that can oh my God, like the speed, it's crazy. It's certainly not my it's not like the greatest tool in my belt by any
okay,
means. So I'm still new at it. But it was fun to just dip my toe in it for a second and just
give
throw
it a
it on the
chance.
album. And that's one of those that couldn't make it on the physical record because of time constraints. So that's a bonus track digitally.
Well, thank you. No, I love it. It's beautiful. The camping song. Everyone wants a camping song. Is it a campfire song?
No,
Probably.
I wrote that song kind of inspired. Tim and I went on we I mean we go on camping trips a lot in the summer, and it was one that we had recently went on, and I was just we just had a
Where'd you
really
go?
well. I think that was when we were trying to find a place around Baker Lake, and
Oh, okay.
we ended we were in Darrington, I think is the name of the town.
Yep.
So that's where we started. We couldn't find a spot. And so we were like, oh, let's just drive around. We drove for 7 hours, seven,
Wow.
and then ended up back in Darrington at the end of the day because it was a Saturday and we didn't have a reservation. And so we were just trying to find a spot. So we started in Darrington, drove 7 hours, ended up back in Darrington, and magically found one spot by the time the sun was going down. So it was like, I was like crying. It was not a good experience, but Tim is like, he calms me down so much and he makes me like enjoy life when I'm struggling. And so we actually ended up having a great time. We I can't remember the name of the campground, but it was somewhere in Darrington, and there was like a little river, and it was freezing. I had just bought a bathing suit, and I was like, I'm gonna go swimming. It's still the summer, but it was like the glacial runoff, and it was
Yep.
like the coldest water I've. I mean, Atlantic Ocean that I'm used to. It's like a bubble bath. So that it was like shockingly cold, and he was just telling me about how it was glacial runoff, and so I just like thinking about how cold that water was and like our experience there, I was like, I should write just a fun little tune about like referencing things that were on our camping trip. So it's just a lighthearted song, and also I wanted a song that was banjo based for the first half of the album. And I don't really play banjo; I just kind of mess around on it. So I just was trying to figure out this like one little riff that could go back and forth, and then build a song based on that.
And she's talking about the North Cascades, which in America, a lot of people have called that the American Alps. It's very
Mm-hmm.
beautiful, lots of mountains. When you get to Darrington and just beyond that, you're driving through the mountains. Basically, there's mountains all on either side of you, and it's a beautiful area, especially in the fall. But even in the summer, it's
Mm-hmm.
fantastic. If you ever get up here, check it out. All right, it just won't do. It just won't do, darn it.
So that one, I think this one came from I was like thinking about how I don't write very many guitar licks or riffs, and not to say that this is any mind-blowing riff or anything. It was just like a couple extra plucked notes on the guitar. So sometimes I'll notice I haven't done this thing or I'm lacking this thing, like with the banjo element in camping song. And so sometimes I'll start an idea based on I want to do this because I haven't done it in a while or because this album needs it. So I think that's how It Just Won't Do started. And then I wanted to write the chorus section in the middle. um I referenced that band Blind Pilot. I was listening to their latest album, and I was just thinking about their songwriting style because I've listened to their music for so long, and I was just kind of analyzing what they do a lot is like repeat words for like a chorus, or they'll repeat a phrase over and over and over again, and I never do that. And so I was like, I want to attempt to write a song where I just repeat this phrase or a mixture of phrases and words over and over again, since I'm not used to it. So that was a challenge to myself for the chorus of that. And I won't say it perfectly fits the rest of the song. It's a little bit weird of a midsection. It doesn't quite fit, but I was happy with it. So
Good. Yeah. I was watching a special about Led Zeppelin's Physical Graffiti album, and on that album they have a couple of songs like "Hats Off to Roy Harper" and some others that reminded me a little bit of this. So, yeah, that brought back some excellent memories. So,
Hmm.
thank you for that song. Thank you for the
Yeah.
album. All right, and then Sunday Cowboy, the title track. Uh, how did this become the title track? I mean, how did you choose that title? Was this really the overarching song that said, "I got to name this album Sunday," or just
I don't know.
it's a
I don't
great
know.
name? Yeah, go ahead.
Um, I don't really like, I guess, put the immense weight of the world on my shoulders and I'm picking an album name. I'm a little more laissez-faire with it. But I think I liked this one because it was one of my like story songs where I like write about something that's not my own. And I think I enjoy writing like that, and I think more people should write like that. I think a lot of people write about like a breakup or a love or there's nothing wrong with that, but I think I would challenge our local songwriters to just attempt pick a random event in time or make it up. I made this up, like these stories, these people, like, and just write about something that has nothing to do with you and try to use lyricism and metaphors and like descriptions and stuff to write something unexpected. So I like to do that a lot. So this one was just kind of, it's not like a concrete idea or story. It was just generally like I was sometimes I just close my eyes and like put myself, I create like an environment in my head and then I just write what I feel and the things that I'm thinking of that environment. And this one, I was imagining like a vintage circus, like an old Victorian
Yeah,
sort of era circus. And so I used some sound effects. I found some like barkers calling and some like fair rides and children and stuff, and mixed that in. And this one was kind of about like the dark side of like like what would they call them, the old like entertainment shows that would come and they would show like the
oh, yeah,
freaks and stuff.
vaudeville.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I was kind of, I've seen some movies
vaudeville.
and stuff about like the underbelly of that and like the abuse of the people.
Yeah,
And we Tim and I had watched what was it called, Nightmare Alley, I think, that movie where that guy becomes the geek or the one that like eats the heads off chickens in the pit,
I
like
didn't see that
it's
one. Yeah,
it's really dark, and
yeah.
so I referenced that in the song too. So it's just kind of like telling a story of like you have this entertaining fair and all these children are enjoying it and everything, but there's also children of the fair like trapped in this like grimy nasty basement, and they're like
Yeah.
being used as like farm animals for this circus and stuff. I don't know. So again, it's not a concrete story, but it's just exploring the feelings of a topic and a time.
This wasn't Barnum and Bailey. This was the Dark Circus. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Um, Junebug. And have you ever actually seen one? And do you know what I'm talking about?
So this title isn't based on the bug
Oh,
itself.
okay.
So this
But have you ever seen one?
I have not. I
Okay.
had to look it up online.
No, actually, in Cleveland, they come out and they do come out in June, and they're huge and they are ugly as hell.
Oh
And
god.
they have pinchers and everything. I've never been pinched by one, but I wouldn't want to be. But yeah, I've actually seen them. But go
Okay.
ahead.
Yeah, so this one, I like to have a few instrumentals on my albums. And this one I was just and I like mixing like the time signature of like how one of the phrases is a little bit longer and then one of them shorter or vice versa. I like doing that with my instrumentals sometimes. Hi. Oh, Tim's here. If
Hey, we have a
Are you free now?
visitor.
Hey, Mark.
How
Is
you
your
doing, Tim?
structural still here?
He's here.
Okay.
Good to see you, Mark.
Hey,
Um,
good to see you.
Sorry to interrupt. I just thought
do you,
I'd pop
while
in.
he's here, do you have a Tim related question so we can take advantage and then we can get back to Junebug?
I was just gonna say, how did you like participate in the album, and what were some of the highlights for you as far as playing and being involved with it?
It's cool. Hannah's become quite the upright bassist. She's gotten
No,
she's gotten a lot better.
I don't actually know how to play the bass. I'm just like guessing and messing around and like learning it as I record. But
well, it's been fun to watch you develop as a bassist.
And by the way,
Yeah,
he does play bass,
yes,
and
he's amazing at bass. So
as well as regular guitar too, I think, right?
yeah.
well, thank you.
So like half the album I did the bass for when we were renting a student bass from a local company, and then the other half the album Tim did because we got our own upright bass. And so it's like mixed. You'll have to check the credits to see
Mhm.
who did which. I mean, if there's like a cool bass line going on, it's definitely him.
Yeah, and Hannah has definitely she has more of a tasteful, more sort of delicate sort of approach to production than I do. I'm a little bit more outrageous, I guess the word would be like like a lot less subtle. So really reining in my wilder instincts and just playing in the pocket and just just
Be
bringing
nice.
bringing something delicate and beautiful
Mhm.
to the equation. So I played a little organ, played a little bit of bass.
Some electric guitar.
I have this fake pedal steel sound that I do
Oh yeah.
where I layer 3 or 4 pedal steel parts that harmonize with each other.
But they're not you're like playing the guitar.
I'm playing the guitar because I don't know how to play the pedal steel, but it's our like cheating way, but it has its own vibe to it. So a couple of
So
songs have that.
the song Bear,
Oh, okay.
that one, it sounds kind of like a pedal steel, but it's him just on 3 or 4 guitar tracks that we like blended together.
And I think I credited it as pedal steel too.
Yeah, it's convincing,
Yeah,
right?
well,
You
I'm
convinced
duping
me,
the
yeah. That's not
even
hard to do.
yeah, I fooled the discriminating ear of Mark Price.
No, no, it's not.
Well, it would be great one day to actually have a pedal steel and learn, because that's one of my favorite sounds in the world. I love the pedal steel, but working for us. So
She called me a hack just now.
no, I
I
didn't.
missed it because your internet locked up.
Oh, well, I didn't call you a hack, but I
Okay.
can.
She said
There
this.
you go. She did.
She said
It
this
got
hack.
erased. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
She said this hack worked out, and I was like,
No.
she called me a hack just now.
Oh goodness.
Cool.
Um, did you have any part in Junebug? Or no? Let's ask him.
Oh, you
Have
did.
you
You
have
played
you ever seen
the
a
low
actual
bass.
Junebug, a live one?
I think
Tim.
so.
They,
They're not around here, are they?
no, no. I'm from Ohio, and in Ohio, they actually do come out in June. They're huge, and they have pinchers on them. And I've never been pinched by one. I wouldn't get that close. I don't know if they do, go after you and bite, but yeah, I have actually seen them on trees and things like that, and they fly around. They're kind of like those things that came around this year. I don't think they come around every year, but yeah, they make a lot of noise too.
I've never been in the Midwest in June. I've only been there like in early spring and
Oh,
in summer. So I was there for a cicada outbreak one time, and that was
that,
fun.
that's it. Cicadas. Yeah, those things are just louder than hell.
It was
Yeah.
a
And
nightmare. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and they're everywhere. Yeah, it's like if you weren't in Florida with her, but she probably remembers the love bugs.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
The front of your car turns
yeah,
black from dead love
Oh
bugs.
my
They're the
God.
ones that like pair together and
yep.
fly together in
Oh,
this.
that's
And
so
That's why they're
they
called love
burn the
bugs.
paint. They burn the paint. So you got to put special lubricant on your car
Mhm.
so that they slide off and
It's
things. Oh my
awful.
God.
so the chitin from the dead husks of bugs gets hot in the sun and it burns the paint.
No, I think there's like an acid or something that
Oh
they,
man,
yeah,
that's even worse. They have a gastric juice that
yeah,
Ew.
yeah, I
Okay.
think that's
oh,
it.
disgusting.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll let you guys get back to serious
Now that we had
business.
our bug talk.
Yeah, now that we, yeah, yeah. Good to see you, Mark.
Good to see you. Thanks for stopping by. Yeah.
So yeah, on Junebug, I played the piano. We have like an out of tune upright in our house and the strings, and then he has his Nord Electro and he played that low bass part, which do you know Nils Fromm?
Sounds
Like an
familiar, but
instrumental guy. He always has that low synth bass sound, and I've never used that in my music, so I was like that would actually layer really well under this like acoustic instrumental sound. And so he did that for Junebug. He also did that same sound, bass sound, for Ontario, and I think one more. So that was cool to have that like new element in my music that I haven't done before.
and on the next song you even add trumpet, something somehow,
Yeah, that
which is
one.
really cool.
Yeah, that's another one of my like story songs where I just get in the headspace of like a certain time and just write what flows and comes to mind. But the idea of the song came from a personal experience where my parents had bought me this really nice tenor ukulele for my birthday, I think back in high school, and it was gorgeous and it sounded so buttery. And I don't play the ukulele a lot, like strum it, but I like pluck and it chimes, and I love that texture.
That's
And
all, yeah.
unfortunately, I sold it like a
Oh
year and a
man.
half ago because I was like feeling the pain. I needed some money. And so I sold it and I instantly regretted it. And I've regretted it ever since. So that's why I wrote that song, because I was like, I feel this way about my instrument. Let me make up the stories of other people that have feel the same way. Like, I want it back. Damn it. Like, give it back to me. I shouldn't have sold that. I shouldn't have given that away. And so every verse is like a different person in a different time. And they all tie together with the refrain about missing what they gave away or what they sold. So that's the idea behind that one.
Yeah, and I and I also had a similar situation, not exactly the same. I had an old girlfriend that sold a guitar that I had. I mean, I don't
Mm-hmm.
play any instruments, and that's why when he said, it's easy to, I mean, it's hard to fool me. No, it's easy to fool me because I don't play anything. But
Yeah.
yeah, I actually did buy one, and came home one day, and she goes, "Oh, you never use it." Well, yeah, no, I hadn't at that time, so I sold it. And I was like, thanks.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
crazy.
Well, we broke up shortly thereafter.
Oh my God.
That was, yeah,
Dang.
you went a little too far there.
Yeah.
All right, Bear, you were talking a little bit about Bear. Let's talk about it now.
Yeah. This one was I think this one is when I started the I was like the idea was the album starts to kind of turn here. So it's like covering darker topics, like it's slowing down a little bit in like tempo. Some more minor stuff, minor chords are being introduced throughout. And it's just a little you're like slowing down a little bit and sinking deeper. So that's why I chose like a super slow tempo, and then that like weeping faux slide like
Yeah,
sound. It just like that sound, that timbre of like the faux steel sound. It just like breaks my heart. I love that sound. So this is when I intended for the album to start turning a little darker. Um, and I gave Tim the note of there's a Bon Iver song called Beach Baby, and that's the note I gave him for like how to style the as an inspiration for the faux pedal steel. And I think he did a good job of like nailing that just kind of lonesome weeping sound for that.
excellent. All right, and let's see, Montague,
Oh, Montague.
Montage, yeah,
Montague
or
is
Montague.
it's yeah, it's
I
this
blew
is
that. Yeah,
another bonus track because it couldn't fit on the physical record, so it's a digital bonus track. Um, I was listening, I had Tchaikovsky's Romeo and Juliet stuck in my head for like days, and I was like, this album could you write a quick instrumental inspired by the theme, like one of the main themes, the climax of Romeo and Juliet. So if you know it, you'll probably hear it and you'll go, wait a second. But if you don't know it, you should listen to it and then you'll probably hear the similarities. But I wanted to have another, I wanted to also bring in more of that like classical string sound because the beginning had so much like fiddle with like the Irish song and camping song has a big fiddle section at the end. And so I wanted to start bringing the strings more into classical style as it gets darker and less like fiddle. So that's the purpose that that instrumental served. And another purpose that got sabotaged was, like I said, I had a lot of challenges organizing this album, the order, because of like the structure that I put myself in. So originally, this song was like, so the song before it would end and then Montague would start. It was going to be in the same key.
Oh
And
wow.
then there's a key change in the middle of Montague. And then three starts, it mixes. And so that's still there and that still works. But unfortunately, the song, it was going to be in the same key as the song before it. So it would have been like a perfect transition between like, I think it's the key of C up to the key of D. And unfortunately that got ruined because I had to like change the order of the song before it. But the key change up to the next song still works. So I'm glad I got to keep that in there because it bleeds. Like the last note of Montague holds out, and then the song three starts in the same key, and so they kind of like cross over. But
All right. We talked about three, so I'm gonna get to one of the darker ones here. Dogs in
mhm.
the Graveyard. Just that
Yeah.
title.
This one, I was putting myself in the headspace of like the feeling and experience of like the nostalgia of autumn as a kid in upstate New York. So my grandparents live like back up to their house backs up to a graveyard, and so we would
Oh my goodness.
sometimes walk their dog. Like when I was a kid there, we would like take walks through the forest and then to the graveyard and walk around the graveyard, and it would be like autumn, and it was just a very specific like feeling. And then I was just thinking back to like other experiences I had as a kid, like science fair and like the ideas you have in your head about what you're going to do in your life. You get inspired by these projects and you have these like goals and stuff, and then nothing ever really comes from them. Like I didn't end up being a scientist or anything like that. So it's kind of dealing with like the fantasies you had as a kid and then the realities of growing up, um, and seeing what came to be and what didn't. And then some of it is just like the lyrics are just like descriptors of how it felt in that like crisp autumn air as a young kid in upstate New York, and like feeling the feelings of like, I don't know, even as a kid, you feel that sort of melancholy of the fall when it starts
Yep.
setting in. So anyway, so that one's kind of just like a meditation on how autumn feels to me. And I had Tim's cousin plays the flute, and so she
Oh,
came over and I recorded her. So you'll hear there's like several flute parts, and they're louder in some sections than others, but you'll hear it pop out here and there. So
yes. And it was wonderful.
thank you.
Then Ontario.
Yeah, this one again stays on the theme of like my childhood because we had a summer home on Lake Ontario for, I don't know, maybe 4 years or so before we moved to Florida, or like while we were moving to Florida. And it was just such a good time. I had such a great like childhood summers there at just being like a loose kid, just like wandering the various beaches and the forests there. And so this one, it sounds sad, but it's only because like it's how I feel when I think back to it and I miss it. It's
Yeah.
not because the experience itself was sad. And I also for this one used, I like I obviously couldn't get it myself right now, so I looked up like Lake Ontario wave noises, and I like found some
Oh wow.
tracks and mixed them together, of like the waves, because the waves there get crazy. It's like white
Yeah. Oh yeah.
caps a
Yeah.
lot. So I got some sound effects from Lake Ontario, and then the sound of like pebbles, like
Yep.
wet pebbles and stuff. I tried to arrange them in like in tempo as almost like a rock drum machine,
Oh wow.
but it's really subtle. It's not like I tried to do them on like, some of them would be on the beat and then some of them would be on an offbeat and then have like like
Sure.
a pattern that would repeat. So I tried to do it intentionally. Sometimes, I mean, to some people it might just sound like random rock noises, but I did
No,
try to
yeah.
like make it fit. Um
Organize it.
and yeah, organize it. And then Tim did the low bass with his Nord Electro on that one too. So
All right, and by the way, yeah, when I was a kid, we used to do right up near Syracuse. My grandfather, my mother's father, had a boat, Finger Lakes. Do you
yeah.
know? Did you go to the Finger
Oh
Lakes?
yeah. Yeah.
And oh, by the way, one of the other places that's very close to this is Niagara Falls.
Yep.
And if you haven't been there, you should. It's
Oh yeah, I did as a kid.
incredible.
Yeah. I was like 4 or 5 when we went, and I brought like decor from my home room, my room
Oh,
at
yeah.
home, and I brought it to the hotel, and I like set up camp, and I told my parents I'm never leaving and that I want to live at Niagara Falls.
It is beautiful. Yeah,
Yeah.
no doubt about it. All right, keep the saddle clean. What does that mean? And we
So
talked about the video, but
yeah,
go ahead. Yeah.
yeah. So this one, it's kind of a song about like paranoia, about things from your past coming to haunt you. So like, no matter how much you wash, like out damn spot, no matter how much you wash your hands, you still
Can't
have
get
this
rid of it.
fear that things are going to come back up from the woodwork and expose themselves and like ruin the life you made for yourself. So that's because it's kind of done metaphorically. I never really say that explicitly in the song, but that's the idea of where it came from. Also, I was like, how I mentioned earlier, sometimes I write stuff based on what the album's lacking. I was like, I have 0 up tempo songs.
Yeah.
So I need a fast song at least once in this album. So, and then Tim did the upright bass on this one, and I did that was the quickest I've ever played Rush snare. It was very hard. I had to do some get sounds right, but
All right. Cold like water.
this is the third bonus track, digital bonus track, third and final one. This one was kind of, I debated having this one on here. It was an old instrumental I recorded on my phone as an
Beautiful.
idea like 2 years ago or so. It was just kind of floating around, never had anywhere to put it. And it originally didn't have those strings, but I added the strings in the middle, and I kind of tried to make them sound almost a little like Asian with the like the scale, the pentatonic that I was using, and then the glissando, lots of glissandos. Um, this one, it doesn't. I don't even know really where it came from. I think it was just I was trying to just be like a tone poem on just like feeling winter set in, and
Yeah.
like just things kind of feeling kind of bleak, and I felt like that was perfect for to put in right before the last few songs of the album as it gets darker. So that one's kind of a mystery to me too. I'm not really not really sure about that one. But
All right. Drunk in the rain.
so this one is based on, Tim has a song called Drunk in the Rain from an
Yeah.
album, I don't know, what is it, like 10 years ago. It was one of his older albums. And I've always loved that song. I've been a fan of his for a long time. And so and I've always loved that melody, and it's always haunted me in my head. So I wanted to take the first line of his song and the melody of his song and then like steal it and then write my own song based on it. And I kept the piano because it was a piano based song. So I played piano, but I changed the chords and everything, obviously made it my own. But so I took the song and then I changed the lyrics to be about Tim and I's relationship, like when we were first getting together, and like the things that I would do to try to like want him to be with me. Like I would like learn harmonies for his songs, so when we sang together I would like know all its lyrics, or like buy his favorite kind of whiskey or whatever, like references to like when we were in Colorado together, references that like it's just telling the story about like our love